going to switch, uh, uh, make our way over to Dragon Quest II. So, nyasu33, if you would. And we are going straight into this. As I mentioned, we are doing this in a relay style. So we're just going, as soon as the first one ends, we're going straight into the second. So Dragon Quest II, we are also doing as an 80% password run. This is a similar thing where a number of... In this case, the passwords are longer, so it's a number of people connected with the game. Their names or nicknames mashed together into something that just happens coincidentally to create a working file. And
そっ
yeah.
か。あれ
And
あ、
typically-
そっか。
So we got a. Oops, it looks like we might have a. Yep, little typo. Okay, we're gonna have to redo some of that. Missed one, yeah, missed one character. So of course there is no insert function, and you have to retype the whole thing. But it's all right. It's all good. So in the Japanese
It's
releases
happening.
of Dragon Quest 1 and 2, they actually did not have a battery backup system ready for these games yet, and so they went with this password system. As you can see, now this particular one is mostly filled with garbage, but the passwords in Dragon Quest 2 can get very long, and so I'm sure a lot of Japanese players were delighted when they found out that Dragon Quest 3 had a battery backup system. But this one still used passwords, and this particular password gives us a hero whose name's a little bit, not quite proper Japanese, but all the runners call it Moyomoto. So Moyomoto-san is going to be making his way through this world of Dragon Quest 2. This is actually one of the more popular Famicom Dragon Quest categories in Japan because, again, it gives us a very powerful hero. So the run will go fairly quickly compared to a typical, any percent run. So you don't have to fight a lot of enemies. You don't have to worry about dying all over the place. But on the flip side, it does not start you out with very many items. So we have this level 48 out of 50 hero Moyomoto. But he doesn't have any of the things that he will need to get through the game yet. So essentially, this is much closer to a new game plus than the previous Dragon Quest 1 run. Just a straight up, you have a very powerful hero, but you have nothing, and you have to play the game as you normally would. And so the first thing we are going to do is we're going to pick up the Prince of Kanak, or Samotoria, as the Japanese version calls it. Who is we have to chase him down, so we have to go all the way through this cave, only to find out that the prince is actually not here, and we have to go back. But it is interesting to sort of comment on the localizations of these games. This, by the way, you see fighting a King Cobra here. We're not going to fight things most of the time. We don't need the experience. We're already level 48. We have a lot of money. We'll be needing a little bit more later. But in this game, every encounter has a fixed 2/3 chance to run. Every time you try to run, it's a 2/3 chance you can do it. It's a 1/3 chance you fail and the enemies attack. And so for one thing, that means you can fail over and over and over. You can fail indefinitely and just get stuck in an encounter forever. But it also means that enemies like that Cobra, which have a poison attack, if you fail to run and get poisoned, that is the one thing that can do this hero in, because Dragon Quest II's hero does not know magic, does not have an antidote spell. And so if you get hit with poison, you're going to have to make your way out of that cave, get yourself back to a town, buy an antidote herb, or talk to the House of Healing guy, cure yourself, and then get back to where you were. It's just a huge time loss, and we're all hoping that doesn't happen. But that is why nyasu33 is choosing to fight those Cobras, and we'll probably do the same thing in a couple of places later on, just for safety. And probably here as well. It's just a single enemy. We're guaranteed to kill it on the first hit, so why take the 2/3 or the 1/3 chance of not being able to run? So yeah, we made our way out. We set the plot flag so we can now finally get the prince, and we're going to go ahead and find ourselves the Prince of Kanak, using the fairy water there to avoid encounters on the overworld. Because again, we are much higher level than anything around here, so fairy water will safely avoid encounters. But yeah, the localization is actually really well done in this game compared to many other games of this era. So I mentioned things like the names Kanok instead of Samotoria, or Hawksness instead of the Domdora
サバルトリアの王
name.
子仲間にしました。サバルトリアの王子
So
仲
yes,
間にし
this
ま
is
し
here. It
た。
is the Prince of Kanok here. But yeah, Kanok versus Samotoria. These names, which I mean, Samotoria isn't that bad of a name, but Kanok sounds more like a a name you might expect to see in a fictional version of, say, medieval England, whereas Samotoria is kind of like where might that be? Not quite sure. And a lot of things with these Dragon Quest 1 through 4 were localized in a way. Rather than, so this is I've done work as a translator and a localizer myself, and I like to call out the difference between translation and localization. Translation is just looking things up in a dictionary and changing it to the equivalent word, but localization is saying, okay, for a game, how can we give players in the target language the same feeling that players in the source language would get by playing the game in their native language? And so in this case, for example, that means taking a name like Samotoria, which is kind of odd sounding, and changing it to something like Kanok, which sounds like something you might see in the rural England areas, for example. I don't know, but something that sounds more like what an English-speaking player would expect from a medieval-based fantasy game. And they've just really done a fantastic job with that in these games, and it's such a shame. I think that these games came a little bit too early for the RPG boom in the West, because there was nobody to carry on this excellent style of localization, and instead we ended up with things like Zero Wing. All your base belong to us. But yes, it is. It's one of those. One of the things that I like to call out about this particular set of games, it was just really well localized, and it's it's a big shout out to the developers for taking the time to do that and making it enjoyable thing. But yeah, we're now on to the next step of our quest. We've talked to a mysterious dog in the town of Hamlin, who, spoilers, we will find out is actually the Princess of Moonbrook, and in order to rescue her, we are going to pick up the Mirror of Ra, the classic Dragon Quest item, which reveals the true form of anything. But actually, before we get the princess, we're going to take an extra trip over here. There's one other dungeon that we need to visit in this area to pick up another needed quest item. We have the prince following along behind us. I don't know how long he's going to be doing there, because in this particular run, the prince doesn't actually have a lot to do. We already have level 48 on our hero, and that's actually going to be enough to carry us through the game, and the prince is just kind of tagging along for fun. But he's there for the moment. If he can keep himself healthy long enough, we might even get to hear some special music later on, but we'll see how that goes. For the moment, we are heading into the Tower of Winds. There is a cloak that we need to pick up at the top of this tower. Still no need to fight enemies. We're kind of hoping that we don't see very many, because again, we don't want to have to take that 2/3, the 1/3 run fail chance. So unfortunately, fairy water, which is the item that avoids encounters on the world map, does not work in dungeons. And this is a this is a really frustrating encounter not to run from. And Prince of Kanok is not going to be with us any longer, but that's all right. Because we still have Moyomoto here to take all the hits. You notice here we have you don't notice because he's got another encounter right away. Notice we have a little coffin tagging along behind. Those of you who've played these games on the NES may remember we see them as ghosts in the English version. The Japanese version, they are coffins. And this kind of ties into another thing I was touching on earlier with the Dragon Quest 1 ending. That in this era of games, Nintendo was very strict about keeping games family-friendly, child-friendly, and so they wanted to avoid any possible anything that might be considered, a little bit risky, or possibly, might possibly draw any sort of contention. And so the religion obviously is one of those things, and so anything that had any sort of religious connection was just shut down by Nintendo. So the coffins turned into ghosts. What we know in English as the houses of healing in these games, originally just churches. Just a straight up church. The guy in the house of healing is a priest, etc., etc. The very obvious version of that in Dragon Quest IV, where there is a royal crypt, which in Japanese version has a giant cross on top of it in the overworld, and in the English version, there's just nothing there. It's just an empty space above this tiny little house. But here we finally have the Princess of Moonbrook. Moonbrook, incidentally, is one of the names did not change between Japanese and English, so Princess of Moonbrook is still Princess of Moonbrook, and runners typically just call her Moon. But we do have our final party. Unfortunately, since the prince decided to take a nap, we are not going to hear the special overworld music for when you have all three characters alive, and so it's just going to be this kind of pondering. But I don't want to say sad, but not the exciting upbeat music that you hear later on if you get all three characters alive. So, but that's probably about par for the course for this run, because Moyomoto's doing all the work here. Everybody else can just sit back in their coffins and relax. But yeah, now that we have all three of our party members, we're doing a bunch of equipment buying here. So we're selling off some of the original equipment that Kanok and Moon came with, not because we need the money, but just because we want to empty out their inventory slots. This game came out long before the invention of the bag that we see in later Dragon Quest games. So the only space you have to hold items is 8 slots for each of your 3 characters. And we're going to need all of them. So we want to make space by selling off. And as long as we're getting rid of things, might as well, get the money. And we can also see, well, you probably can't see it unless you can read the Japanese, but nyasu33 is getting a fair number of lottery tickets here, and lottery tickets we don't actually want to see, because they're only worth, I think it's like 53 gold, 50 odd gold, and they take up an inventory slot. We need, as I was just saying, we need all the inventory slots we can get, and so every 53 gold, so you see selling off those lottery tickets that we have no use for. In a regular 80% run, sometimes they're useful, because 53 gold is a bit of a decent amount of money when you're in the beginning, but we already have 26,714. And that is almost all we need. We're actually still going to need to farm a little bit more money later on, but compared to that, 53 gold a few times is nothing, and much rather just not get the lottery tickets at all and not have to worry about making up that extra space. But we're finally done with that, and we're going to make our way on to the next part of the quest. See Moonbrook Castle there. Some unfortunate stuff happened. Speaking of which, those of you who've played the English version of this game may remember in the English version there is a good long, I think it's about 5-minute long introductory sequence that tells you why the Prince of why the hero has been sent out on this quest. It's because Moonbrook got destroyed by the evil Hargon, and a soldier used the last of his strength to warn us about that, and so we are now on a quest to destroy Hargon. But in the Japanese version, I think they just didn't have the memory on the cartridge to add in a cutscene like that, and so we just go straight into the game. And here is, by the way, the reason we needed to pick up that Cloak of Wind a moment ago. This Dragon's Horn Tower here, you just climb up to the top and jump off, but if you don't have the Cloak of Wind, you just drop down on this side of the river. Whereas if you do have it, it'll let you kind of float over. You obviously don't see the floating over in this in this game, but we'll let you float over to the far side of the river and continue on your way up to the next town. Making pretty good progress here. So far, nothing seriously has gone wrong. There's not too much that can go wrong up to this point. But probably a typical number of encounters. No serious time loss. The one thing I was mentioning earlier, the poison will be a thing. There's the cobras we had earlier. There will be a couple more enemies later on that also have poison and can potentially cause time loss. Sleep can be an issue too, and we will actually be picking up an item in the next town, which will help us avoid that. But make sure the fairy water has been used. So again, fairy water doesn't do anything in dungeons, but in this game, you can actually get an encounter the very first step, even before you take a step on the overworld. So as soon as you drop out of the tower, you can get an encounter on that first step. And so by using fairy water before leaving the tower, that ensures you do not get that encounter. So doing a little bit more buying here. If you look in the upper left, you see there's a girl hiding back in the corner. That is the one thing that is already done on this particular password file. So I was mentioning it is mostly a New Game Plus. You have almost no equipment or no story flags set, but as an exception, there's normally a fight with 2 gremlins here that you have to do. That's just skipped, and we can go straight to getting the ship. So it is the one, thing that makes this not quite New Game Plus. But again, it's not deliberate. It's just a side effect of how this password happened to work out. As I mentioned with with Dragon Quest 1, some of you may not have been here for that run. The fact that this password happens to work is not encoded in the game program or anything. It is simply just by coincidence that that password or that sequence of letters works out to a valid password, and the fact that this is what it gives you that's just coincidence. So that is that. We have gotten our ship and make our way down. One of the things, by the way, that we did pick up in that town as well is the Dragon's Bane, which is an accessory. You don't have like an accessory slot as you do in many later games in your equipment list. But by using it as an item, you equip it, and what it does is it reduces the chance to be hit by the sleep spell. It's specifically the sleep spell, not like sweet breath or other sleep effects. But there are enemies we'll be hitting in a bit which have the sleep spell, and so if we can reduce the chance to be hit by that, that's a good thing. It's not really any risk of Moyomoto dying, even if he falls asleep. But it's just a lot of time waste, and obviously we don't want to lose any time. See, picking up the World Leaf Tree right there. And that, of course, is a fairly well-known thing. You can pick up one and only one leaf by just stepping on that square and searching the tree. And if you have one in your inventory, you can't get another one. And it's a thing they've carried on, I think, through all of the later series. It's a cute little thing. Don't want to make it too easy to revive. It's kind of their approach to this game. So waiting for the NPC to finally move down in front of the desk. NPC movement can definitely troll you in Dragon Quest games. It is very much a thing that runners complain about. That lady right there can walk right into this column that Nyasu33 was just running down and completely block you out. And the only way around that is to leave the town and come back and hope she doesn't do it again. Fortunately, we didn't run into that. I was sneaking into the back of the jail there, picking up the Watergate key, which is just another. Again, like Dragon Quest 1, it is essentially a sequence of find the plot item, and this one will let us open up a Watergate, which gives us more access to the world. But again, it is a required item, and we just go and pick it up, and Nyasu33 is doing the optimal route to pick up all of those items and get to the end of the game as quickly as possible. So we do have you know, a bit more walking here, and moving on to this. Oh yes, we're back to Cannock now. Picking up. So this is where we start also picking up the final equipment for the hero, because you know, we do want. We're not going, even though we have level 48, we're not going to walk into the end boss with you know, nothing on. So we're picking up the Erdrick's shield there, and we're going to be picking up the other, you know, major equipment items. An interesting thing to mention also, talking about that level 48, in a lot of modern RPGs, typically if you are close to the max level, and the max level here is 50, so if close to the max level, typically you even the end boss of the game will no longer present a challenge for you. That is not the case here. The end boss is a very risky fight, and you know, it can definitely go wrong. We'll hope that it doesn't, for you know, because we want Nyasu to get a good run here. But it is, being high level is not a panacea. We do need the equipment as well to survive the end of the game. So again, wait for this NPC to finally get out of our way so we can pick up that treasure chest. NPCs are trolling quite a bit here, but it happens. And eventually they do walk out of the way. So we are grabbing again, Erdrick's token there, which is another required item to get to the end of the game. Another, essentially, it's a plot item, along with a bit of money and a wing of the wyvern. I didn't touch on it earlier, but the couple. If you were looking at when Nyasu did some shopping earlier, was buying a lot of items in the shop. He was actually buying them in a very specific order. So most of the things that he buys in this run are wings and fairy water. The fairy water, as I guess I didn't really talk about it, but the fairy water will prevent encounters on the overworld. In Dragon Quest II, the rule is that I believe it depends on the hero's strength, and there's actually a point at which not strength, but actually attack power specifically. So strength plus whatever you have equipped, and there's actually a point where Nyasu will need to equip a weapon, not because he's going to attack with it, because he needs to raise his attack power to a point where fairy water will prevent encounters in certain overworld zones. And then the Wing of the Wyvern, again, same as in Dragon Quest I, is an item that will return you to... in this game, it is the most recent place at which you saved. We do not yet have the option of warping to any town that we visited. It is only the town at which you saved. So sometimes you will see Nyasu also talking to the save guy, as I always thought of him, the priest at the church. In this game, to get a password. That's not because he's going to use the password. It's good because he wants to reset his save location or his return location to that point. And the only way to do that is by talking to the priest. But here we go. Going to picking up. Yep, it looks like we did safely get through that. Not surprising. It's not a dangerous fight. Nothing is yet dangerous for our level 48 Morimoto. But picking up the first of the 5 crests that we will need to get to the final dungeon, the final area of the game. And again, using the fairy water just before we leave the town, so we'll avoid that 0-step encounter. But yes, as I was talking about the shopping earlier, he was buying Wing of the Wyvern and Fairy Water, but buying them in a very specific order. Shoutouts, by the way, to the Alfgard music. You can get this on this continent of Alfgard in Dragon Quest II. Again, picking up, swapping Erdrick's token for the helmet. And continuing on our way. But as I mentioned, the shopping, picking up those items in a very specific order. What he has is, he will maybe have 2 fairy waters, 1 Wing of the Wyvern, another 3 fairy waters, 1 Wing of the Wyvern. He's done that in the specific order he's going to be using them, which I thought was very clever optimization. So that every time he goes into the menu, he knows he can just click the top thing in the list, and it will be the thing that he needs to use next in the route. So A bit of run difficulty here. Again, is a constant 1/3 chance. Unlike later games where every time you fail to run increases your chance of being able to run, in this game it is just a fixed 2/3 chance every single time. Regardless of your level, regardless of how many times you've tried, it is always a 2/3 chance. And so, if the game decides to be mean to you, you can just be stuck there forever. But fortunately, it hasn't been too bad so far. Making our way onward through the lighthouse. One of the I guess 2 or 3 major dungeons in sort of the core game. We have to make our way all the way up to the top of this tower. And again, because fairy water does not work in dungeons, we just have to hope for few encounters, and whatever we do get, we have to then hope that we can run away quickly. And not because it's dangerous, just because we don't want to lose too much time here. These Gorgon heads will start throwing defense down at us, but again, not a huge deal. Even if we do take defense down, still got that buffer of 200 HP, and in this era of game, 200 HP is a lot. It is not something that we're going to have to worry about, dying to any random encounter yet. So, going to continue making our way down there. And I will actually let you enjoy the tower music for just a moment, as I have to step aside. So give me just a moment and enjoy. Nyasu is going to be doing his best to get through these encounters really quickly, and I will be right back. So, still making our way through. You see, we've been through a number of encounters here, and still, Morimoto's doing just fine. 167 HP, 162 is. Pull this up just a moment. Take a little bit of damage, but this isn't really dangerous. It's just we do eventually want to use, we do have to use a couple of herbs every now and then, make sure that the HP doesn't go all the way down, but not any true danger, just time loss. Just one of those things that RNG will do to you. RNG, of course, the random number generator is the term that speedrunners use for the randomness in games. Technically, it is the term for the piece of the program that causes all of that randomness. There's some really interesting things that can happen with RNG and randomness, and we're going to be getting into that a little bit in the Dragon Quest III run coming up a little bit later. But in this game, there's no shenanigans. It is essentially just a roll of the dice that happen to be loaded however they are for each particular thing that you're doing. And we're getting pretty close to the top here. So those Gorgon heads just keep on coming, keep on not letting us run away, and it is it's so frustrating to see them increase, and of course, when one does it, it does it on all 4 of them. So it's 16 messages we have to watch through, but we do get away. Yes, very true. Everything is fine as long as you have more than 1 HP. It is only the last HP that counts. Very important thing to remember in RPG speedrunning. Here we are. You see a little character walking down there. All of a sudden turned from a devil into an old man. Maybe we just missaw it earlier, I guess. Looks like a nice friendly old man. So you can see Nyasu is actually just going after the Gorgon head. It's not even going to take a chance of failing to run here, which I think is a reasonable decision. The run rolling has not the run RNG has not been good, so totally reasonable to just be sure to get those kills. Five Dragonfly is a little scary, but we got away. There are a couple of encounters that can be a little bit worrying, but we seem to be in good shape. Just one more. This old guy taking us through all of these secret stairways, which I'm sure nobody ever knew existed. And so he's going to show us whatever secret he has to reveal. Inside this room? Oh, what is in the chest?
わー、騙された。
Oh no! We got tricked! It was all a trap! And actually, it turns out that no problem with Actually, it turns out they decided that actually no, this Moyomoto guy looks like bad news, and so 3 of them ran away.
お金が足りないな。ちょっとお金が足りないな。
Which actually is an issue because we kind of wanted the money from those kills, so Nyasa's gonna have to find a way to solve that. I bet you see he does have a lot of money, but we do need a little bit more for a couple of things we're going to be getting later on. So.
エンタメ敵借ります。エンタメ敵借ります。
We'll look at that a little bit later. There are options still. So we're going to move on our way. Yeah, it looks like Nyasu may just decide to start killing things for money here. To make sure that he does hit the very specific target that he's looking to hit later on. Actually, I guess not too far from this. A couple of towns away. So we're looking to have 25,000 gold by the time we get to the town of Tepa in not too much farther from now. And so the gremlins are part of that route, and since 3 of them ran away, that kind of spoils that a bit. And so we're going to have to come up with alternate solutions here. First off, we're stopping in town of Baron here, partly to pick up more items, but also to set our return point because we're going to be coming back here a couple of times as well. So again, selling off. We did pick up a couple of these holy knives from town. There's a treasure chest, and I didn't mention it at the time, but there is a treasure chest with one of these holy knives, which respawns every time you warp out and in using the teleport pad. So you can just respawn that chest and pick it up for 150 gold each time, and see the gold here, 25, 615. He's going to be buying a few things here as well, so this is going to be right around his target of 25,000 gold. For the next job after this. Nice little bit of
怪獣の葉があるのか。怪獣の葉があるのか。
Pleasant music while we finish our purchases here. Just a kind of we've been using a lot of holy waters and wings all through the run so far. So this is kind of our big restock point where we pick everything up again. And also some herbs, because as you saw earlier, while the hero's not in any danger, the NPCs, the wonderful trolling. While the hero is not in particular danger from a single encounter, the damage does stack up over time, and so we do want to make sure that we have herbs to recover from that, because again, the hero cannot use magic in this game. Only the princess do, and we're actually going to be reviving the princess here. Not so much for magic, although it will be useful later, but more just so she can use items directly, because otherwise you have to take if Nyasu wants to use an item from one of the two dead characters' inventories, he has to take it out, put it on him, on the hero, and then use it from there. And of course, every time you do that, there is a long text message saying what you just did. It's not like modern games where you just click once and click twice in the menu and you're done. The game tells you every single thing you did. And when it's in the coffin, it says the hero took whatever the item is out of this other character's coffin. And it spells it all out for you, which is very cute, except in a speedrun setting when you're trying to just get things done. So by reviving Princess of Moonbrook here, we avoid having to do that, and she'll just be able to use items directly from her own inventory. So it's just a little bit of time save. It's less time to revive her than it is to keep moving the items around. Nice little bit of very careful river maneuvering to get us into here. This is yes. Now we're going to I believe it's Toon in the town of Toon in the English version. Yeah, I do sometimes get confused between the English and Japanese names. It's called Tepa in the Japanese, and again, as I mentioned, I have no qualms with localizers making those kinds of changes to make more names that sound more like what what an English speaker would expect. But when you're trying to think about both versions of the game at the same time, it does get very, very confusing. So it's a very persistent dog, but eventually got out of our way, and we open up the water gate. We did, by the way, pick up the Falcon Sword, which is what we needed that 25,000 gold for. The Falcon Sword is going to be very, very useful later on in the game. And it'll be useful in an interesting way, and I will mention that when we get there. But yeah, safely opened the water gate, and now we can go on. So the other thing that Nyasu did there was to sell off the chain sickle. I mentioned earlier that he bought a weapon. It was a chain sickle to boost his attack power in order to avoid encounters, specifically encounters on the ocean. The hero's 48 without a weapon is not quite enough attack power for Repel to block sea encounters, but adding the chain sickle onto that is just enough. So he just sold it there in that shop, but because of a quirk of how Dragon Quest handles equipment, if you sell a weapon that's currently equipped, your attack power does not change until the next time you enter battle. And so for the moment, he still has that chain sickle attack power active, and so Repel is still saving us from all of those water encounters. And that will end here because we are now going into the Tower of the Moon, which will be getting us. This is the first in a sequence to get the Eye of Malroth. It's a very important item that lets us get to the final area. the Eye of Malroth is buried deep within an undersea cave, as some NPC somewhere, I'm sure, will tell you. I don't happen to remember who it is or where they are, but if you're playing the game casually, you will find someone who tells us that that is where you need to go, and the way to get there is the moon fragment, which is the top of this tower. So it is just a big long chasing the items. And by the way, no, we don't need experience from Metal Babbles. You saw nyasu33 run from one of those earlier, and yeah, we're already level 48. We don't need the experience. They don't give a lot of money. We already took care of our money needs anyway. So yeah, Metal Babbles actually do nothing for us. Metal Slimes, Metal Babbles, all those things which normally you would be delighted to see in a speedrun. In this category, they're meaningless. They're just another encounter, another waste of time. And we'll happily run from them if we can, and if not, well, maybe they'll run from us. So, unfortunate death to the princess there. But again, it was just a little time-saving thing. We don't need the princess to be alive for any actual actions yet, and items we could just take them back out of her coffin again. Unfortunate, but not not run-breaking, not a run killer. So we just shrug and go on our way. So here that was a case where we could potentially. Looks like actually reviving. Pulling out the leaf and the leaf of the world tree, reviving the princess to go ahead and use that fairy water before we leave. I imagine Ness will be picking up another leaf of the world tree next time it passes by that location. As again, the leaf of the world tree is. It is always there when you need it. If you don't have any in your inventory and you just examine the square, you'll get one. If you have one, you examine the square, you get nothing at all. That's just how it works. But if you know you can get there, and it looks like maybe going there right now, then you can just pick up a new one whenever you need it. So in that sense, it's nice and convenient. Again, this is a sequence of several. So, Dragon Quest III, I think more people may be familiar with Dragon Quest Dragon Warrior 3, which has the 6 orbs that you have to chase after, the colored orbs that you have to chase after. We'll be seeing those in a bit as well. This game's version is crests. So there's the Fire Crest, the Moon Crest, Sun Crest, a couple of others, the Life Crest, and I don't recall what the last one's offhand, but 5 crests to make our way to the end. And that is kind of the middle phase of the game, if you will. So your first phase is getting the ship, opening up the world to explore. The second phase is collecting these crests that you need to get to the final dungeon. Here we also have Rubus, a spirit of Rubus in this case. Keeps popping up in this series. He's a nice fellow. We don't really know a lot about him or her, or as the case may be, but very nice. Gives us the charm of Rubus, which will be very important in the final dungeon. So there are actually 3 items that we need to get to the final dungeon and proceed towards the final boss. There is the Charm of Rubus, which you just got. There is the Eye of Malroth, which we are going to be getting soon. And there was one more, which again I'm not figuring out. You can tell that I have not played this game in quite a while. But anyway, there's the 5 crests and then the 3 items to collect. That. Yeah.
ああ、そっか。ああ、そっか。
Anyway, this is the undersea cave that I alluded to earlier. We did lose the princess on our on the lava tile, but again, that's all right because the,
まあそうだよね。
because the princess will not have any major role to play during battle in this run. She is mainly just there for the items, and used all the items that we put on her in the beginning. So her job is done for now, and she can take a rest while our hero walks over all the tiles, but with 200 plus HP, that is not going to be anything to worry about. It's kind of the second long dungeon of the game. You had the lighthouse earlier. We have this sea cave now, and of course the who could forget the cave to Rhone? We'll be seeing that in just a little bit. Fun little stairway maze room. Got some pretty clever dungeon design in this game, I do think. Obviously, of course, nowadays everybody just uses a guide to find where they need to go, but they have the stair maze in this cave. Of course, Cave of Rhone has all sorts of gimmicks to it. It is very clever, despite how evil it can be at times. But yeah, playing these at the time when they first came out, when we didn't have all of this meta information, because of course this whole genre was new at the time. At best we had, say, wizardry on the PC, which is actually one of the foundations of this series as well. The original Hori-san and the other Dragon Quest developers used wizardry as their initial idea for creating a game. For creating a game series like this. So, it all ties together, but, it was still very early in the genre. We didn't have any of the dungeon gimmick meta that we have these days. And so seeing all of these for the first time was just really, playing through them as a child. It's just a lot of fun, even though most of that fun also involved me dying, getting sent back, and losing half my gold. It was still, for its time, it's very innovative, very interesting, very well done games. So it looks like we are actually doing a death warp here. So this is yeah, okay, there we go. With all of the health, actually, it can take a little while to finally get sent back to the priest, but there we go. Was kind of the disadvantage of starting at a high level is that, yeah, you are high level. It is hard to kill you. And you will last for a long time against some of these mid-game enemies, but we are now out of the sea cave. We do lose half of our gold. I kind of alluded to it earlier. Whenever you die and are sent back to the priest, you keep all of your experience and items. You lose half of your gold. The shopkeeper is not cooperating with us, but NPC randomness, we love it. But at this point, we've already used all of the money that we expect. We can sell a couple of extra things here as well. The major expense we had was getting the Falcon Sword for 25,000 gold. We've taken care of that already. We have the Falcon Sword in our inventory. The only other things we're going to need are stuff like herbs, which you see yes, I'm picking up now. And probably a couple of fairy waters as well for the final walks. Won't do any good in run. I think it would still help out on the should still help out on the sea, but mostly just picking up herbs because, again, as I mentioned, the hero in Dragon Quest II does not know magic, does not have any sort of heal spell. The heal spells are on the prince and princess, and both of them are resting in their coffins, taking a breather. So they are not available to cast magic for us, and we just have to use herbs to keep our health up. So it's kind of an interesting balance to the hero's high stats, is that you have, the herbs are your only way to heal, and those are good enough for now, but later on it's going to get a little bit touchy. So yeah, here we are making our way to the Cave of Rhone. And the gold orc here not letting us run away because, again, that 1/3 chance to fail to run is always 1/3, no matter how many times you try. And we are theoretically getting to the Cave of Roan if these encounters will let us get there, but yeah, here we are. Again, using the Eye of Malroth, which we had to pull out of the coffin, but that's alright. Use it over here, open up the door, and into the Cave of Roan we go. So this can potentially be a rough cave in this, probably the rough dungeon in this run. Obviously, anyone who's played this casually knows that yes, it is a rough dungeon no matter what. But there are all sorts of things. We'll see how many really bad encounters you get. But even with all of the herbs that we got, and you probably see as we go that there was a reason why Nyasu picked up all of those herbs. Yes. But there are actually some pretty nasty encounters in this dungeon. And we just have to hope we get as few of them as possible. There's, so we have the the level 48 stats and all that, but we do not. We have Erdrick's shield. We have we do have a lot of good equipment, but in this game, and I believe throughout most of the series, up to maybe Dragon Quest VIII, there is no concept of a magic defense stat. Magic always does a fixed amount of damage. The exception is there's armor that that has like a 1/3 reduction or a 1/2 reduction, but there's no separate defense stat. It is a fixed damage range per spell, modified by that modifier. One of the things actually we're going to be picking up here is Erdrick's armor, which is one of those things that does reduce magic damage, but there are no other ways to reduce damage. So if you got 8 middle slimes coming at you, throwing blazes at you, that's going to hurt. Despite level 48, despite all the equipment we have. Breath is another thing. For green dragons breathing fire on you, it's going to hurt. There can be some really scary encounters to fail to run from here, and so we're just going to hope that Nyasu gets the good side of all the RNG rolls, making the way through this cave out to the snowfields of Roan. So far, it looks like we are doing pretty well. Not any really scary encounters. And again, when we do get these single encounters, we do have the Falcon Sword equipped now, and the Falcon Sword is a very low attack power weapon, but it has a unique ability of being able to hit twice. So you saw with a single attack, Nyasu was able to hit that orc twice and just kill it straight up. So again, I think a lot of the single enemy encounters here we're still going to see just fighting our way through, so we don't risk failing to run, as just happened a couple of times there as well. But it is ultimately all up to the random number generator to see what kind of RNG we get. The Horks are scary. The Hork was such a nightmare for me when I played this game casually. 5 Horks, or however many Horks you can get at once, just sitting there poisoning me to be. And that's actually another one of the really scary enemies for Moyomoto in this dungeon.
Yato!
Well, that's another thing, is that if you accidentally move in the wrong direction, there are lots of invisible pitfalls. And unfortunately, Nyasu just accidentally stepped in one, so you've got a little bit of extra walking to do for that. So this is, and actually, this could be a nasty encounter right here. Did get away from it finally. Yep. So as I was mentioning, yes, there are some scary encounters in here. The encounters have actually gotten scary, even for Moyomoto at level 48, with Erdrick's shield, and I believe we have Erdrick's armor at this point as well. And Erdrick's helmet, of course, as well. So Erdrick, we have our Erdrick equipped level 48 hero is still getting demolished by these random encounters in this cave. It is Cave of Roan. It is definitely. It has earned its Yeah, its name.
違う。違う。
Okay, and there we have that's a Sword of Thunder, so that's going to be that's going to come in useful in an interesting way later. I'll explain that when we get to that point. But just keep in mind, for now, we have a Sword of Thunder in our inventory. I heard that in some newer version of this game, you can't name the hero Erdrick. That's interesting, and I wouldn't be surprised. It's kind of want to preserve that lore. Of course, back in the NES day, they didn't really think through that far, and B, they didn't really have the program space on the cartridge to fill in all of those details, and so they just let you. Also, an interesting thing specific to the Japanese version is that in the Japanese, I don't want to go too deep into linguistics and language lessons and anything like that, but just as a bit of background, Japanese, what you might call the Japanese alphabet, has two styles of it. What's called hiragana and what's called katakana, where the katakana is typically used for things like loan words and character names in fictional stories. So like we have here, like you see, you actually see a mix of them in the name list there. But an interesting limitation of the Japanese Famicom Dragon Quest games is that you are only allowed to name your character using hiragana. And that's in part because of memory limitations. There are 46 of the kana, and 46 times 2 is 92, which is a lot more than the 52 you need for uppercase and lowercase English letters, and they just didn't have space for all of them. So what they did is they said, okay, here are the names that we are going to put in katakana, and they only put those letters into the graphics of the game. And so because they didn't want to show a name entry list with half of the letters missing, they only let you use hiragana. And the upside of that is you cannot name your hero the same as the official hero name, because he just cannot enter it in the name entry. So that is a thing that they did not have to worry about in the Japanese version. Oh. Just a cute little bit of gaming history there for this series of games. They had to do a lot of sneaky little tricks to fit games of this expanse into the very limited memory available. At least we got a first attack on those dragons, because that could have been again very scary. But it looks like we are making our way through reasonably well. I'm not going to cast a curse, only reasonably well. Cave of Roan still definitely sticks in the memory if you've played this game before. This is the last. So I'm mentioning the large dungeons earlier, the lighthouse, and then the sea cave, and this is the third large dungeon, if you will, of the game's core sequence, and it will take us to the final area of the game. This kind of, in a sense, this I think even more than Dragon Quest 1, Dragon Quest 2 established a kind of this kind of literary, not literary, but gameplay. Are we in trouble here? We are. Morimoto's in a bit of trouble here. We're going to see if we can make it through here, or if we're going to get sent back, or if Nyasu is going to choose to go back. But yes, as I mentioned, you've seen how much damage a lot of these can do because so many attacks, the flame attacks, the spell attacks, just you have no way to defend against them. But it looks like, we did make it through the Cave of Roan, but we're not in the clear yet. There is still a walk before we get to the final shrine that will let us save our game and also set our return point. Very, very important. But yeah, it's I was kind of mentioning how it's kind of set a sort of sort of gameplay style There we are. Finally made it. We are now safely locked into the final area. We're not locked in. We can get out if we need to, but we are saved to this final area. So if we die, we do respawn back here. We don't have to go through the Cave of Roan again. Cave of Roan is done. And actually, we are going to go back and we are going to restock on items again, I think. But we are done with the Cave of Roan at last. But yes, kind of said Dragon Quest II really defined a kind of a gameplay style, if you will, for the RPG genre of not just the lore. The lore, of course, has been there since Tolkien and probably before, but just this style of having the plot items to find quests, and also the kind of the pattern of going from from the field exploration into the dungeon exploration. Dungeons have progressively stronger monsters. There's the risk if you die. If you take too many risks in dungeon, you get sent back and have to do it over. That sort of style, I think, really developed with this game, Dragon Quest II, even more than the original Dragon Quest I. It's interesting to kind of ponder on how that has been carried forward, modified, both to add depth and also to be nicer to players. Of course, there are so many more games coming out these days. We don't have time to sit here and walk through a dungeon over and over again until we finally get through. We want to play it and then go on to another game. So there's modern games do have a lot more quality of life. Quality of life changes, but this I think, like Dragon Quest 1, especially Dragon Quest 2, and then 3 after it as well, kind of expanding on the same concept, really established the vocabulary of RPGs, if you will. We are now on to our... We are also looking, by the way, not going to see it in this fight, I don't think. We are looking for a single giant encounter. If we can possibly get one of those drop a Sword of Destruction, which is a fantastic sword for certain reasons related to the Sword of Thunder we mentioned earlier. It's only a 1/8 drop, and you're not even guaranteed to get the fight in the first place. But we can hope. So, to answer the question in chat, do Canuck and Moonbrook revive with a party wipe? They do not. When you party wipe, it's only the hero who's revived. If you want to revive the others, you have to pay. You have to pay the priest to revive them, which I believe is the case for all of the Dragon Quests. But yeah, it is only you're only given the bare minimum to get back on your feet, and the rest of it you have to do yourself. But that is just how it is. Cyclops, 3 Cyclops banging on you is painful. This is going to hurt quite a bit. We did finally get away. There's going to be a lot of herbing right here, and again, because we have to take the item out of Moonbrook's casket and into the hero's inventory before we can use it. All of those messages telling you what you're doing. But yeah, herbs are pretty solid in this game, so given that it is the only recovery item that you get, it is nice to see that they do actually give you a whole lot of HP back. So so here's an interesting thing. We've walked into the final dungeon here. Looks like just an ordinary castle. Everything's fine, but the hero Morimoto is doing a whole bunch of equipment changing here. What's going on? Well, Charm of Rubus shows us that this is actually the final dungeon, but there's an interesting thing that happened. So Nyasu33 walked in here with the Falcon Sword equipped, changed that over to the Sword of Thunder. When you use the Charm of Rubus to reveal the final dungeon's true form, it also resets all of your equipment. Any menuing changes, any inventory changes you did, those are all reset when it reloads the true final dungeon map. But does not change your stats back when it resets your equipment. So what we've got now is we've got a Falcon Sword equipped with the attack power of the Sword of Thunder. So we have a Falcon Sword of Thunder on our hero, and that is going to make getting through this dungeon, especially through these last bosses, much easier than it would be otherwise. It's a very well-known glitch in this game. That also ties into the Sword of Destruction I mentioned earlier. If you happen to get a Sword of Destruction, normally it is cursed, and you have I think it's I don't remember if it's a 1/3 or 1/2 chance to not be able to attack on your turn, despite it having the highest attack power of any weapon in the game. But if you equip that and then use the glitch to put your Falcon Sword back on, you now have a Falcon Sword of Destruction. And unfortunately, I don't think we got that in this run, but again, that is just as destructive as it sounds. And it is a well-known glitch. I think actually it made an official appearance in one of the later games. I don't recall which one. It was just kind of a side joke from the developers, but developers do in fact recognize that this is a well-known glitch and players love it, and I just think that's cool. But yeah, we have actually gotten through the all of the random encounters are gone. We are now on to the boss floors. So this is the end. There are actually only two floors in that dungeon that have enemies on them. These last 3 are only 1 mini boss each. So it's kind of a boss rush here. We see actually reviving Princess Moonbrook here. She is going to be doing a little bit of healing for us as we fight Atlas, the first of these 3. And you see so much for Moonbrook. Atlas has a focus fire thing, so if he decides to attack the hero, Moonbrook will be safe, but unfortunately he decided to attack Moonbrook, and so there we lost our healing. We did get 1 heal off though, which is it's okay, never hurts. So straight into our second boss, Bazuzu. Again, you see the only popping up there for an instant. You see tons of damage coming out from that Falcon Sword of Thunder. And that miss is kind of scary. But yep, we got through it. We do not want to see misses. We do not want to see misses, but we did get through. And yep. On to our third boss, Belial. So as long as we don't get even if we do get a heal all, it's just a wasted turn. So again, Belial should go down in just 2 turns. So nice and quick. Again, Falcon Sword of Thunder doing its job. These 3 are not terribly dangerous. We do take some damage. We're gonna have to heal that up now. It is the final boss. Hargon can control a bit, but it is really Malroth, the final boss, that is going to potentially cause us much grief, especially if we only have the Falcon Sword. The Falcon Sword of Destruction is what you want, but let's see.
まあ勝ったけどちょっと辛い。まあ勝ったけどちょっと辛い。
This does not look good. We got back attack there, so took 1 extra hit, and you see we are now on the final bosses, and you just see how much damage they do. And of course, you're supposed to have 3 people alive here. We only have 1, but we may be in trouble. Yep, I think that looks like all of those. So this does not look good for the good guys. But we'll see how it goes. There's always the chance. Malroth could just miss over and over. But 144 HP is not what you want to see going into this fight.
Nice. Yaっちゃい Nice.
Single attack.
先行 OK 先行
Can we
よし
go
よし
first?
よし OK
OK,
よしよし
OK.
よし
And we got it! Wow!
OK.
Wow, what luck! Pushing through with that low HP to get the kill. And here we do get the, just for a moment, we get that, that 3-character music, the that upbeat tune that we almost never got a chance to hear because somebody was always sitting in their coffin. But wow, GG's, that was that was a finish for the ages. as we do we do our victory lap, if you will, our walk back to the castle, as you typically do in a Dragon Quest game, kind of celebrate your return, celebrate your victory. It's kind of a neat thing. Instead of just going straight into an ending cutscene, it gives you a chance to kind of sail around the world, walk around the world, see the world that you've saved on your own pace. And Moyomoto has done his job from a very iffy start, but done his job, taking out Hargon and Malroth. And our two coffin friends are now back with us as well. And that, yeah. ありがとうございました。Wonderful run. Wonderful run from Nyasu-san there. Wonderful end sing. It's a kind of a thing that the community does. To sing there are lyrics to the Dragon Quest 2, 3 ending themes that